identify pro-black.
History is about teaching us as a people that we're at war.
I want to speak about the image of our people. We have to be protective of our image.
Our ancestors, and we are oppressed today.
Hotep, Uncle Jasaneb, peace, namaste, anything that you want to use to greet us as we greet you. We want you to know that this broadcast
And Kev show.
That's right. And each first and third Saturday, we come to you with pertinent information, challenging information, but most of all, is information that's applicable that we can apply to our lives. And today, ladies and gentlemen, have we got a subject for you? I know I say it every week, every month, but we're telling the truth now. It is called The Enemies at the Gate, Kev.
Yes, sir.
The black so-called gatekeepers, from sellouts to Uncle Tom's. We must delve into that, Kev.
Okay. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's see what we can come up with, because I think that concept it's true in a way, but then it's also a misnomer when we talk.
Gatekeeper, what do you define a gatekeeper?
Well, someone who's trying to stop someone from entering into a space or some type of information or wealth or whatever the case is. This is a person that's trying to block. They're holding the gate. They're not allowing one to get in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So started hearing that gatekeeper title being thrown around, and I was never one to use it.
Okay.
And I wasn't the way that they were using it was mainly talking about celebrities.
Yeah.
And but the way they were talking about it was, well, they're not giving us this, so they're these so-called gatekeepers. So I was thinking, well, that's what they thinking, that they were supposed to be giving us something. But then when after I talked to you, they were, and I think I heard someone else talking about the gatekeepers.
Right.
And so I came up with a different perspective on what a gatekeeper was.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted to ask you, what was your definition of a gatekeeper?
Oh, okay. You say you have a different perspective. What's that perspective?
Well, I didn't because the way that it was being used, the context in which it was being used, it was supposedly those people that could be helping us,
right,
monetarily and not doing their duty. And I was like, well, so I had a different perspective on it. I'm like, well, that's up to the individual, but actually a gatekeeper is someone that it's almost like a bouncer at the doorman, not letting you in to this exclusive club.
Wow.
And some of us, whether we be Uncle Tom's or, and we could get into each of, sellouts.
Wow.
So we have to define what we consider a sellout, what we consider Uncle Tom. But first, what is the gate? What is the gate that we are trying to get into?
Yeah, and there's a different lot of aspects on that gate, because I think when you look at our survival, we look at us as a people and we're struggling, and a lot of us don't know why we're struggling. But we should have some kind of idea of what's really going on with the African American in America based upon what has happened to us since we've been here. So it's really clear. But again, we don't focus on this part. We just wait until someone becomes a celebrity or entertainer or a sports figure. And then, like you said, we bash them because we see them as responsible. And to some degree, I think I do want to talk about that later on in the broadcast, because I think there is some truth to that, you see. So that's kind of what that's, but we're talking about from an economic, from a survival perspective. It's a lot of things that we have to look at.
And when you said so-called gatekeepers, why is that?
Well, because if you really look at the term, there's no such thing as a black African-American gatekeeper. And here's why. We don't own a damn thing. Right. Now we do have, and we'll look at wealth in a few minutes, and that's going to really shed light on it. But when you look at it, Kev, we don't own anything to be gatekeepers. So basically, we can't say we're gatekeepers, because what do we own that we can keep people from getting in? The politics.
We're not part of their part of their gate. We're not part of their club, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But they can use us. And this is my ideology about a gatekeeper when you're talking about blacks.
Okay.
My point is, it is a gate.
Okay.
But they're keeping us in the gate. As opposed to letting us get out of the gate. And I think they are used by society, our oppressors, as to keep us in a certain place.
Yeah.
And I think there are some people that are professional gatekeepers,
Mhm.
and they keep the calm when things should be, when we start rising up and getting upset about things. They'll send those certain personnel in there and say, well, you got to do it a certain way.
Right.
You know, just lock arms and sing kumbaya and let them know when people are frustrated, you know, and fire's starting, the smoke is starting, they'll send a certain couple of people, so-called leaders there to keep it calm. And those to me are the gatekeepers in situations like that. Not that they're allowing us to get into the gate, because we're not going to get in that gate.
Right.
We have to get that out of our mind that we're going to be part of their club or whatever. We've been here 500 years and we ain't been part of the club yet. So, but I do think that there are certain people in the Black community that they use to keep us in the gate.
You see, Kevin, that's why I wanted to chime in on that part, because you're absolutely correct. But I'm gonna throw in a sellout as well.
Yeah, sellout. We're gonna talk about them.
Because what they've done is they've sold us out. They're more knowledgeable of what we're talking about than we give them credit for, because the first thing we say is they didn't know. I don't believe that, Kev, because most of us realize, coming from where we come from, the social condition of Black people, the African American in the United States, we don't need any lectures. We already know. So for a person to have made it, so to speak, and then to become a sellout or a so-called Uncle Tom, we give them more credit than we should, as opposed to telling the truth about how you're saying that many of them are used, whether they know it or not. They're used to try to prohibit us from doing things that we need to do ourselves.
Okay, so what you said was whether they know it or not, and that's where I think that's the blurry line.
Okay,
because some of them believe in the apple pie hot dog mentality. I mean, they came up in their school system, you know, and they have success. Now, one thing that success will do, it'll make you believe, because it's like, hey, if I could do it, you know, all I did was study hard and I worked hard and I got myself out of these conditions. That's the American dream.
Okay.
Then why? And the reason that these others can't do it is because they're not applying themselves, or they took the wrong road, and that's their own fault. And you see the Candace Owens and people like that. And I remember at a certain time, Oprah was part of that group. Back in the 80s or 90s or whatever. And I remember her and Spike got into it, and she was saying, stop using racism as a crutch. And that's that phrase is a very tough phrase for a lot of Black people to accept, because for her, it is a crutch to people because she's succeeded. So that's what I think. So if you believe it, you believe in the system, then I don't think that you're purposely misleading us.
Right. And but even though you may not be purposefully misleading us, like I said, whether you know it or not, you are part of the problem.
Yeah, part of the problem.
And I'm not going to allow you, not you generally or personally, but you as far as people who have that mentality, because I honestly believe that regardless of how we were raised, we all have a sense of what's happening to Black people in the United States of America. We've had it, like you said, after 500 years, we still are shucking and jiving, thinking that this is a land of opportunity for us. When we look at numbers, we look at the economy, when we look at the wealth, and that's one of the things that we need to discuss, because we're struggling from a wealth perspective. And a lot of us don't look at numbers when the Federal Reserve, which is a group of centralized bankers, they give us numbers every quarterly about what's going on.
Right.
And they are giving us numbers that will make, the hair on our neck stand up, to show that we are so far behind. And that's not because of us. That's because of the system that you mentioned earlier that's keeping us out, because it's intended to not have us a part of this.
Right. So it's a faction of this country that believes that, I'm talking about the privileged faction of this country, that believes that we are in a predicament on our own accord. So they believe it, and I believe it's a faction of us that believe it, if we've gotten success. And I remember a post that somebody put up, and it said, racism didn't stop with your success. You know, just because you became successful doesn't mean that these conditions don't still exist, or that they stopped existing. We heard the vice president, Chuck and Pearls, say she don't believe America is racist. That racism exists in America anymore. And of course, she's someone that has reached a certain status in this country and has been able to reach a certain status. So I understand why she may believe that.
Right.
And I think that's part of the problem that we find in, like, when we talk about an Uncle Tom and a sellout, to me, a sellout is a person that's doing it purposely.
Okay.
And then we have some Uncle Toms that don't know that they're really Uncle Toms, and they're fighting and scratching. You would call them an Uncle Tom, but and it's not, that's a bad word in the Black community.
Right.
To be called an Uncle Tom. But some people are Uncle Toms and they don't even realize that they're Uncle Toms. And that's the thing.
That's because they have believed what they have been taught all of their lives. Because a lot of us, even as African Americans, it's how do we see each other? And why do I see you as a crook? Why do I see you as a thug? Why do I see you as no good? Why do I see you as mischievous? Why is my mindset like that? Because I've been taught that. And a lot of us believe that. But when you really do your own research and you investigate, you'll see that this country was set up on the backs of those who look like us, who are really good people. And so when we don't have a context, then we can begin to go off kill. We get off course. And this is why we have so many people that are mentally deranged when it comes to how they see us as a people.
But they don't understand that they've been brainwashed.
Yeah,
most people that's brainwashed don't understand that they've been brainwashed.
And my thing is, some of them many of them don't understand. But nevertheless, you're still brainwashed.
Right.
You see, and that's the part that I'm on to now, because I think many times when we look at, for example, I can ask many people now, how much wealth is in the United States system? And someone may say about $135 trillion. Okay. How much wealth do African Americans have, according to the Federal Reserve? The answer is 7 trillion. And that's really a drop in the bucket when you think about how long we've been here and what we've done, you see. And most of our wealth is in pensions. And with those who have homes back in the day, who could get a job out of high school or drop out of high school and get a home and send their kids to college, et cetera, et cetera. But the majority of us, we're hit. And when you look at the wealth transfer that's happening right under our noses, about $129 trillion. These people are transferring this wealth to their people while we are sitting around trying to fault each other for the condition that we have allowed ourselves to be in, because we don't talk about reparations and things like that. That's the only thing that's going to help us in the long run when we talk about economics, you see. And this is why these numbers don't sound good to many people's ears, Kev, because many people don't care about numbers. When we talk about the Black businesses, we only have our Black businesses total $310 billion. Okay. But if you look at white corporations, their businesses are at $35.97 trillion. Then you also look at the land, man. I can name you 5 white families that own more than 98% of the rural land. So why in the hell are me and you arguing, or I'm trying to choke you, or I'm trying to stop you from doing anything positive, when the people that's doing what they're doing is doing it to us right under our noses? And we're so silly, many of us, because we don't want to look at statistics. We're too busy looking at other things, and we don't have these kinds of discussions that you and I are having.
Okay, so let me interject this.
Okay,
on a couple of things. Us looking at them and what they got. Do you believe we ever going to catch that, or you think that's ever going to balance out?
I know it's not going to ever balance out, because the government is not going to do what they're supposed to do. They owe us this. We're not asking for a handout. We're not big. This is ignorance when people say that. This is what is owed to us. When you work a job, you want your check at the end of the day. Right. And most of us don't know the difference between income and wealth. Income is what you make on your job, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or salary. Wealth is what you own. We don't own a lot. This is why when you catch a flat or I catch a flat tire, we have to, play games to get the tire fixed. Whereas the Europeans can take the whole car and say, give me 4 new tires, because they have wealth that's being transferred. It's generational wealth. And a lot of us don't look at that because we don't have these kinds of discussions, because even our own families, that's not a topic that we should be talking about.
What type of discussions should we be having?
We should be having discussions that we should be teaching our kids the importance of reparations. I'm talking about African Americans. I'm not talking about Jamaicans that came over here. I'm not talking about any African that came from the continent to come here. This is something that's owed us. And we're some of the only people who let other people come over here that look like us and step in front of us because they look like us. Whereas we have a case against the United States federal government. And until we start talking like this, then even though it may be on deaf ears, that's our responsibility.
Okay. Now I'm going to look like, okay. If you wanted to ask, what would be, I remember Ice Cube gave his contract for Black America. I don't know if you ever looked into that.
Or I've seen that before.
Okay. Give me your impressions of that first. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, what would your contract with America be?
Well, the first part of the question about Ice Cube, I think he was trying, okay, but he didn't have what he needed, the bagging. You know, you got to have people who are economists. You got to have people who are historians. You just can't throw a number out there. So the stuff that I'm talking about is coming from the people who are doing us this way, the Federal Reserve. My contract should be every African American. I'm not talking about other people that came from the continent, because back during slavery, people start coming over here in the 70s, Hispanics and all them. They're in front of us now, wealth-wise. That should not be. So my contract should be that every one of us, when we look at the years we've been enslaved back in the day and what they've done to us, we should be able to have a monthly salary that we get as Black people, African Americans, once again. And then our little kids, they should have baby bonds where they can have bonds where they'll be able to go and do things and start businesses. That may not make the playing field equal, but at least it's going to put us in the game where we can be able to compete, because this is something that's owed us. And if a person owes me, I'm not going to turn my head and act like you don't owe me, because you do. And I think that's an important topic. We'll get into some more numbers too.
Let me get my if I had the contract with America, what I would want. Not, first of all, I want land. I want a couple of states on coastline, and I want a state, and I don't mean like Texas, New York. I want our state. I want our land, because what they took from us, reparations is supposed to be making up for what was done. We were taken from could prosper on. Resources. So if we owned our own land, not as part of America,
I got you.
I want part of a sea state, seafront state that we can have import and exports. Call it whatever you want to call it, but this is not part of America. This is our own state that we govern ourselves.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Resources is power in the world.
Yes, sir.
Land is power in the world. There's no people out there that's part of somebody else's land, man. Look what's happening in Palestine. Why do they constantly have those issues there? Because Israel is running the land. Israel is controlling the resources. So they will always, anytime a conflict happens, it's going to be a bully situation. We control whatever you need. We got to get from under. If they give us money here, we're part of the American economy. That's a stimulus check for America, because we can start our businesses and whatever, but I want to start it as our own. That's what was taken from us. We can have our own government, our own land, and have citizenships to where it's going to be a lot of people that don't want to go and leave. Or say like they give us Florida and whatever.
Right.
It's a lot of Black people that's not going to want that. Right. But you could stay here in America, but you got dual citizenship where you could come and go, come see your family or whatever. We have our own cabinet, government, however we want to have our government. So we have our own resources. We can have contracts or export agreements with Jamaica, with Africa, any African country, even say Russia, China, whatever. But dual citizenship, resources, and our control of our own.
That's awesome.
State.
That's awesome, Kev, because how many people, though, do you know and do I know that if you were to ask them, as I asked you and you asked me, we have had to look at this thing. We didn't just all of a sudden today just come up with this information. Right. Many of us, and I'm trying to tell you and myself, many of us aren't interested in the application. We're always bitching. We're always complaining, and we should, because we have a right to. But my thing is, at what point in time will we start doing something and saying things that are positive, like you're saying, this is an application for us? And most of us don't realize that when you talk about the souls of Black folk with W.E.B. Du Bois and what he was talking about, that veil, it's very important that we understand what that veil is. The veil is taking people who will look like us and putting them on TV, these entertainers, these celebrities. And when people see that, they say that African Americans are doing well off because look at them.
Right.
That is the most ridiculous thing. We are not. The majority of us are poor. We live in projects. We're on top of one another. We don't have health insurance. We don't have life insurance. You know, we're living from day to day, paycheck to paycheck.
All right. Yeah. And I agree with that. Now, for one thing, when I'm talking about this state also, and I want to bring this up, America gives Israel $3.3 billion a year. $3.3 billion a year. If we had our own state, give us that type of money. So our economy is going to be flourishing regardless. because so we could get on our feet as a nation. I don't care how long you think that contract should be. You think it should be a 100-year contract or whatever.
Right.
Israel's not giving us anything.
That's right.
For that money.
That's
we
right.
didn't. We don't even owe. I'm sorry. United States don't even owe Israel anything.
Right.
They didn't put them in ovens, you know, and gas them and things like that.
Right.
Germany did that. So why are we paying them that?
Right.
But then if you could do that for them, then you could do that for us.
Same with Ukraine.
And when you and live us. And then you're going to help us get on our feet for so many years. Yeah. And that's reparations. And we could stand on our own feet. And we don't even have to be as rich as America.
You hot, man.
But we can be rich enough to take care of ourselves. Of course, and that's what I'm talking about. When we look at what America is making, of course, we're never going to catch that. But what we want to be able to do is stand on our own 2 feet in the world.
Right.
Not here I'm in Texas. I got a nice little property. Right. That's gonna be gone because you know what? They still control that. They could put you off they could raise your property up. White people could not visit your businesses. Everybody got their own businesses. We still spread out. We don't have our own education system. Wow. Control.
Kev, I'm going to say this, and this is a statement that I believe with all my heart. I love African Americans. I love people. One of the things that we have to come to grips with, and I'm going to just put it out like this, and that's this. The reason that we have not furthered in our social condition is because too many of us, not all of us, too many of us are indifferent. Too many of us are lackadaisical, whether we've been taught or not. That's where we are. In other words, what you're talking about, I could care less about. I'm not interested in that. See, I'm more interested in something else that's not going to help my children. See, I'm more interested in something that's not going to help the posterity of our people. And so when you talk about us being indifferent, us being lackadaisical, us being unconcerned, we don't want to have that discussion because when you ask me, Brother Jahi, how come you never talk about what we're talking about now? So instead of me saying, you know, Kev, that's a good challenge, man. I need to really start looking at that because, you know, we want to at least be fighting. And that's one thing about our ancestors. They never got everything they wanted, but they fought till the end. But a lot of us think we have arrived because after segregation, we really think we think that we have made it. And that was what you said earlier that we need to talk about because we are struggling, man. And I don't think that I can sound the alarm loud enough. Neither can you, because a lot of us don't care. And that's the part that we need to start teaching more of, even with our kids. What families that you know, mother and father, sisters and brothers, when they have their meals, when they eat together, who talks about what we're talking about now?
No, it's not even going to be a topic. And what has happened to us, if you look at us, I mean, as a people, historically, the 60s, 70s, early 70s, that was a very turbulent time.
Yeah.
It was the civil rights movement. We were voicing our opinions. We were talking about, you know, separation, Black nationalism, everything. Yeah. And we with it. And that's normal. That's to be. But what happened is we got comfortable, right? You give, and see, that's what they do. They give you a little bit and they say, well, okay, here, take this. Beef. We get a little comfortable, just like you say. If they give us a little bit of money, they know we're gonna put that back into the America. This is a stimulus check for America. Anytime they put money in our hands, we don't have the mentality of tribalism, whatever you know, closing ranks and saying this is ours. We're gonna have to build this within ourselves. Wow, we don't have that. We don't have that stick-to-itiveness.
We don't.
So we have to incorporate that into our people minds first. And that's why I say even if they gave us a state, and you'll know the people that say, okay, I'm out of here. I don't, you know, people that say, well, I love California, whatever, or wherever they at, people in New York, this and this. See, you talking about your plantation. But you go down to this other state and you're gonna know who, because they're gonna say, yeah, I'm coming here. And I want to do something and we're gonna build something. Those other people that got that mentality, the apple pie mentality, stay there, do your thing. And when you see it happening, maybe you could come be a part of this.
This is all applicable. This is application. This is basic truths that we should be discussing. There's 856 million acres worth of land, pretty much. We don't own but less than 1%. problem with all of that is, like you mentioned earlier, that's where it starts. It has to start with land, okay? It has to start with land. But the discussions that we're having now, these are the discussions that people aren't interested in talking about. So you're probably making someone very uncomfortable today. So am I, because these kinds of discussions, we're talking about the celebrity gossip now, okay? And that's very important to many of us. Or who did this, who's doing who, and all of that. But when you talk about stuff like this, you're not going to get very many of, and then you don't even have people that's knowledgeable enough to say, you know what, like me. Okay, you help people learn how to shoot firearms. You do. You say you do that.
Yeah.
Instead of me saying, Brother Kevin, I'm going to come to your class and learn how to shoot my gun. I'm so messed up that I know I need you to help me, but I'm not going to come to you.
And you might say, man, that's dangerous. Why? And I'm gonna tell you something. Another minority told me, they're talking about marching, protesting. They're like, but don't bring any firearms with you. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Those other people that's at the other side that's showing up, that's on the opposition, they showing up with they AKs and AR. He's like, but we're not responsible enough, black and brown people, to be carrying guns. So that's your mentality right there. You're acting like you're dealing with some juvenile people that's not responsible with what you're marching against, and they showing up to scare you. They're showing up with their firearms.
Wow.
So, but that's the mentality. That's the mentality that some of us have. Some of us have the mentality that they're comfortable. We live vicariously through our celebrities.
There you go.
And it's like so and so. Oh, and somebody come out with a new show about the riots they got, and we click. Oh, look at this. Look at this.
But we don't want to talk about this here.
Yeah. And this is black nationalism that we're talking about.
Right.
But okay, let's put that to the side, because that America's not giving us 2 or 3 states right now.
Okay.
So what can we do?
We can do right now. We can band together in unity, but that's another discussion, because I have to really realize what unity is all about before I'm talking about applying unity. So if we know we're in this pitiful condition, and we know we are, most of us do, then why are we not coming together like they did in the days of old, where they had their own communities? There was not just one Wall Street. Wall Street was really popular at that time because of how affluent it was. But there were many other communities down south.
You're talking the Tulsa Wall Street.
Yeah,
so there was many pockets of that all over.
Exactly.
And you can have a pocket of that in your own.
We should community. Have one. You should.
Every community, every city in America, every town in America, because it went back then, the difference, we were forced to do that. We had no choice. Now that they've given us choice, we choosing to go to they side. You see that in the stuff that we think that we getting our dapper with. Oh, I got this Gucci, this Gucci. It's just Italian stuff.
Somebody told me integration was the one that destroyed us.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the mindset that we had. It said where we were at. It told where we were at, because what they did when they said, okay, y'all could come in here, even though y'all got back then, that's what they did. Y'all got to come in through the back door. You could come in our movie theaters, but you got to use the alley and the back door. And we ran to do it.
Today we can go through the front door, but yet we're still giving them everything we have, all of our resources. We're giving them our money. We're giving them our time. We're giving them our mindset.
We Americans. We're apple pie, hot dog eating American. Turkey on Thanksgiving stuff, and
that's a whole nother broadcast.
So what about the gatekeepers?
Well, the gatekeepers are basically those people who, know it or not, they're doing everything they can to prohibit us from moving forward in their own way, whether they were taught it, whether they were raised with it, whether they were educated with it or not. And so this is why education, self-education, is crucial. Because most of the things that we were taught growing up in this system, it basically destroyed our capacity for critical thinking.
Right.
And so now, as I notice, I see a lot of books in your library, and whether you've read them or not, you've at least looked at some of them, and you begin to see that some of these authors have a different perspective when it comes to me as a person. And unfortunately, many of us, we go to these different places and they teach us this one trick, and we never let that trick go. And that trick is what destroys us. When I say trick, they teach us a mindset to be dependent upon other people, always look to other people for what we have. And so then we become gatekeepers in a sense for these people, because we don't want to do it. And if you say, well, Jahi, why don't like our own show? We could have been on somebody else's show. We could have been guests every first and third Saturday. We don't want to be on anybody else's show.
We could have came up with a show and we talking about sports.
Yeah. We don't
talking
want
about
that.
entertainment.
Right. We don't want that.
That's not doing anything for our people.
See? And a lot of people are they may not admit it, and I know how it is because I haven't always been this conscious myself. So I know what people are going through. But I'm saying this is a plea to us because of the state that we find ourselves in. The number here to call is 361-405-6111. Again, 361-405-6111. Kev and I would love to hear your perspective on the enemies at the gate.
Yeah, we're talking Uncle Toms and Sellouts and some of these people that don't even understand that they're Uncle Toms and Sellouts. I got a comment. I like to appreciate Aisha Ray for showing up, and Sakina, salam alaikum, sister. She said, many who could or should be part of the solution have become part of the problem.
Whoa, that's good.
Deep. Yeah, and that's part. And see, that's what I'm saying. This is what my point is.
Okay,
we can pick people, leaders, so-called leaders, or people with this status in this country, and we could say, do you consider them a sellout or Uncle Tom or both? Because some of them are Uncle Toms that sell out. Sellout to me, when you're talking about a sellout, that means a people or somebody that's doing something for themselves to, despite the people, to to push themselves ahead.
Right.
And it's like the hell with the rest of them.
Yeah.
People that, and see, you're not going to get up in that high status speaking like about a nationalist situation. You're not going to speak like that or talk like that and make it in their arena. They're going to chop you down at the knees. You see what happened with Kanye. As soon as he starts saying something about a certain group, and all of a sudden he started losing endorsements. But as soon as all the times he been making music about black people and calling women bees, and this and all. See, you could keep going. Okay, that's how it is.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start talking about these other people, then you're gonna start losing endorsements. Nah, you can't do that.
Well, that queen was spot on with that. And again, I'm beginning to realize that you have to call a spade a spade. And oftentimes we like to spare people's feelings. Now, we're going to be respectful. If I disagree with you or you disagree with me, we're going to be respectful in how we convey what we're dealing with. But we do have to begin to call a spade and say that many of us are a problem. We should want to take this veil off of our faces for the standpoint of our posterity, our children, our children's children. We know that it's bad right now. We know that we have the solution, but when are we going to at least try to implement it? We may not ever get it done, but at least we should be trying to implement something that's going to make sure that your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren can say, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, he wasn't around to see this, but look what he prepared. He set this thing up for us. That's the discussions that a lot of us talk about.
I think that that's my mentality. I think of my grandparents and things like that. I didn't know my great-grandparents, but even though my grandfather may not have had the same mentality that I had, but he set the stage for, because that's a pride. That one thing that he may have instilled in us was a pride.
Wow. That's
now good. The thing, like back then, we could say, well, you know what? They was Uncle Tom's. I remember the first show we did. We talk about the 4th of July.
Okay.
And I believe like my Teresa Lewis came on and she said, what about those people that in the book 1619?
Okay.
And the author was talking about those people that served in the military, and they have a certain pride. Because they the lady, when she was a girl, she questioned that. She felt ashamed, like, basically you almost like saying you're Uncle Tom. You sitting up here saluting this flag, and the temperature of the world of the black community at that time was the black power nationalists. And a lot of people today will say, I feel bad for those black soldiers that died for this country. But some of them that didn't die, they come back and they have a pride. They like, and the answer that he gave the daughter was, we fought for this. We built this. Have that. So then some of us will look at them and say, you're Uncle Tom. But then they have a right to love what they fought for, not how it is, but they're part of it. So they may say, well, I'm not going to another nation. But that's why I say we have to identify when we talk about an Uncle Tom and a sellout, what's our criteria for those people that meet that? somebody just brainwashed. Because I could have looked at something that my granddad said that told my dad and them, hey, you got to learn how to shine shoes. You got to learn how to cut hair. You got to learn how to basically work for white folks.
Right.
At a certain period, the older brothers that.
Right.
Then the younger brothers, it was like, okay, go to school, go to college, get this. Yeah. But you could say that's an Uncle Tom or what? Are you gonna say that's
Yeah. Well, this is true because the context of the term Uncle Tom was a word that was used by a European woman named Harriet Beecher Stowe.
Yeah.
She wrote a book called Uncle Tom's Cabin. But Uncle Tom was not a bad guy. Uncle Tom was a good guy.
He was
Uncle
a liaison.
Tom, he helped the people. He did a lot of things to help the people when they came in from the field. But we took that concept later on and we turned it and we use it now to where with like Malcolm X and other people would call people handkerchief head, Uncle Tom's. Yeah. And now we took it to a whole nother level where we kind of showing people that if you are against us, it was really Sambo and Quimbo. Those were the real slave
stepping fetches and
exactly.
Stuff like that.
So it's like, but we know in our context, when you and I use it, we're talking about people who will do anything they can to stop another person that looks like them, especially one of African American descent, from doing what they should do. Like with the school, a lot of people don't care about the school, Kim. That they're not going to support the school. And I'm not sitting here continuing to cry and complain about it. It's just that if you know that the system is miseducating our children, if you know that, and here's something we can do on our own, why aren't we having more success with those who say, I've been there, I've done, and now this is my role because I don't want my children or my grandchildren to turn out the way I did because I'm still working on some things psychologically, because that's what happens when you talk about gatekeepers. There's educational gatekeepers, there's political gatekeepers. I mean, it comes in different facets and forms and ways.
Yeah, I think many of us support the system in different ways, and many of us don't support us in different ways, and sometimes we do it unconsciously. But as far as like the Uncle Tom thing, I think that's a Black word, and it comes from the book Uncle Tom's Cabin. And what he was a liaison. When the white folks wanted something to happen, they told him to go talk to the slaves, because the way he looked. Even though what is it coming from? It's coming from a source of oppression. And you're carrying on that and telling them to do stuff. And it doesn't have anything to do with whether you're a good guy or not. You are caught up in the system. You're being a liaison, just like some of these leaders today. The government, these white folks are telling certain people, hey, they starting to do this in Ferguson. Go down there. And you may believe what you're saying. And you're saying, this is the way we got to do it. So we'll say you're Uncle Tom, not that you're a bad person or a sellout.
Right.
Or some people doing it consciously. You are selling out to get a pat on the head or to go higher up. But I'm saying some of them, like, because that's what Uncle Tom was. He was a liaison when the white folks wanted the slaves on the plantation to do something, or they wanted to change something, or things were getting harsh. They had to tighten their belts. They told Uncle Tom, look, this is what's going on. Go talk to them. And he was that manager, that supervisor. So that's why we said to Uncle Tom, we label. But some people, they're more sellouts than they are Uncle Toms.
Yeah.
So that's why I say I wanted to say that about the Uncle Tom thing.
So as far as the comments, because we haven't gotten the call yet, are there any more comments about this particular subject matter?
No, not really. That was the only comment. I'm gonna go to our YouTube page because I've been looking on our Facebook page.
Because this is a very, very important subject matter. And again, there's certain things that we have a diet for. We have a diet for the some of the stuff that's not really good for us, like a food that we eat all the time. We don't like to eat those things intellectually that's going to challenge us and stimulate us. And many times when we talk about the gatekeepers, when we talk about doing for self, doing for your people, unifying and moving the needle forward to help us in any kind of way, you don't tend to get a lot of response. But when you talk about negativity, when you talk about who's sleeping with whose wife, social media, when you talk about which celebrity got a big contract, then you seem to get more traction. And that's because our diet, man, has become so anemia that we don't even want to eat what we need to eat. And that's why a lot of parents, knowing what our parents know, knowing what you've been through, I know there was a way you taught your children. I know based upon what you grew up with, that affected you to a certain degree, that you taught this to your children, what to look for and what not to look for. You would have been less than a man if you hadn't done it.
Right. And I think this is tough for us, man. I think that it's tough for us as a people because we have so many people that has been brainwashed. But one thing that we have to have, like you said, I think the Occam's razor for our people, the beginning steps, it has to be unity. And to have unity, one thing that is a must is tolerance. We have to have a tolerance with each other. We have different mindsets about different things, and we would constantly talk about people are not supporting this or they're not supporting my get together here on this or my show or whatever. But then if you don't have a tolerance with people and you sit there and you condemn people for having a certain belief system or whatever, and like Malcolm X said, you even said this earlier, I wasn't always where I'm at right now. But we have to have a tolerance for people that's not where we're at and try to teach them and can't beat them over the head, because if you come and somebody know they're going to get beat over the head, they're going to walk the other way. Why would I come and get my butt kicked in just to listen to somebody talk about something? You're going to be like, okay, but if you have that tolerance with each other, you have to have a tolerance with each other.
I think that's very important. I think that should be said when we're talking about gatekeepers and sellouts and the enemies at the gate. I also think that what's important is that when you tell me something that's true, I don't care where I am in life, whether I'm on this journey and I haven't gotten there yet or not, what you say should plant a seed or sow something in my heart to where one day I'm either going to do something about it or one day I'm not going to do something about it. I'm sure you can remember the times, as I remember the times, that a lot of older gentlemen would sit me down and they would, you talking about talk, they would tell me the truth in their own way. As I got older, I realized that the truth that they were telling me was for my own good. Now, I accepted it later on. At the time, I didn't, because that's what we do as kids, as young people, we do. But sometimes many of us have been so brainwashed and so destroyed. And I hate to say this, but many of us have become so messed up in the mind that you can show us the way out and we're not going to take the way out because we've been damaged. We've allowed the system, we've allowed the educational system, we've allowed the political arena, we've allowed everything to kind of close in on us. And there was not independent thinking. And therefore, as a result of that, you can tell them what you want to tell them. But the bottom line is many of us are going to leave this earth the way we were when we came in interested. And my thing is, all I'm saying is, listen, you may not change. I may not change. But at least, Kevin, when you say, well, brother, let me talk to you about if I was a drinker, and you say, well, let me talk to you about drinking. The least I can do is listen. I may not do anything about it, but to shut you down because you're talking about something that I don't want to hear, that's a problem with us.
And I think in that way of thinking also, like when older people told us something or somebody that tells us something, it's something that we don't know or maybe we don't believe it to be true. So that's where tolerance comes in, because you may be telling me your truth, that to me, what they told me in school is my truth, or what my dad was doing was his truth. So I may not see it until later in life. And so that's why I say we got to be tolerant and things like that. Like when you say truth, that's subjective, because everyone has their own truth that they believe in. So some people believe in the American way, like however Oprah talked about racism was a crutch and she don't believe in it, she didn't. But she got so much money now. Why I could tell her to her, you know what, this, and this, and she could say, okay, what has that gotten? This is my truth. And I can't argue with her bank account on her truth if that's what she believes that she's basing her truth on. So telling people, that's all we could do is constantly try to talk to people, try to get unity. We have to show unity. That's one thing. You have to be an example of unity and show people unity, show people that we care, show people that we can build something, because we haven't built anything.
Wow.
What are we building? And you could say, well, I know I'm talking, not you personally, I'm talking about, but you could say, well, I built the school. People gonna say, well, how, and they always gonna want to measure. But that's why I say we can't use white people's institutions or their statuses or the money they make as something that we're trying to compete with. We don't need to compete with them. We need to get our own, make and keep our own and stand on our own.
Right. And you got to have these conversations to get our own. Right. You got you and I know you're not saying that, but you got to have these conversations to get our own. And what I'm saying is, many of us, we like safe subjects. If when you and I talk, sometimes we talk off the air and we talk about subject matter that may be uncomfortable to many people, but at least we talk about that subject matter. Some people don't want to hear gatekeepers. We don't want to hear about Uncle Toms. We don't want to hear about sellouts, although it's all around us. We don't want to hear about what's happening to Black people, although when something happens to us, then we want to go ahead and wave the banner and say, look what's happening. So you're right about there's got to be a tolerance. There's also a tolerance for at least listening to the person. And that's where it starts. I should at least be able to listen to you, regardless of what I do, but to shut you down because I know you finna tell me about alcoholism when that may be my problem. That's problematic. And I know that'll never change based upon you and I doing this broadcast. But I guess I'm trying to say that most of us as a people, we've got to come to the realization that when we have these kinds of discussions, these are to help, man. These are discussions to help us, to show us what we can do. Somebody else may have some insights that's going to help us. And this is why we have the live call in. This is why we have the comments, because we want to hear some things that other people are dealing with, because you and I aren't the only one that's going through this.
Right. We could deal with that personally as families. Get together with your family when y'all have these little get-togethers and discuss things that you could do in your family unit that's going to help make the family money and show some unity within your family unit. If you don't want to go outside your family and do it, that's where it could start. Have discussions on how you can make money, because asking them to give you money and they still control your employment, they still control your resources and everything, you're going to turn around and be paying it right back to them because you're still going to get your food from them. You're still going to get your education from them. And what we should be doing is calculating how we can start doing these things for ourselves and how to support those that are doing things for themselves. And somewhere down the line, I may not see it come to fruition, but we may have some type of independence, because everything we're talking about, we don't have any independence. It don't matter, because if America gets mad and she wants to tighten her belt, if she wants to take away your talk show, Arsenio Hall, what's the other brother that got all the kids, they took him off of the wilding out things and all these things. Like you say something wrong, they'll let Nick Cannon, they'll let you get up so far in their system. Right. But see, that's because we're dependent on their system. That's right. We have to be independent. Has to be our mindset. And you have to recognize, just like if we come and talking to people about something, you got to recognize when you're talking to Uncle Tom. You got to recognize when you're talking to a sellout, because what they're going to do, they're at the gate, they're going to try to keep you in that gate. They're going to be like, come on, man, they talking all that nonsense, that black nationalism, that stuff didn't get us on. You know what? This is the candidate we need to vote for. You know, that's what they're going to be talking about. Voting, you know, the path of least resistance. Easiest thing to do is go vote for somebody else to be your daddy, to take care of you and your family.
This is the same thing that we talk about every other month when somebody is maybe a talk show host or a sports personality and they want all these millions of dollars and they don't get it. So we complain and we gripe because we feel like they are deserving, or they can you because you said something on a talk show that was true, but the networks didn't want to hear it, so they let you go. You can't go to me or another black African-American unified front that says, you know what, you're going to be hired here because you're dealing with the truth, and I like that this is ours. We're not going to control you like that.
And so why can't they come? Why can't they come to us and do it?
Because we don't have them.
Right.
Because,
so we got to start building. We can sit there and say, you know what, this is awful, but what have you done to help? I mean, that should have been done a long time ago. Put somebody through the school system or whatever, and see, you could go to their schools. I'm not saying don't go to their schools, because right now, I would prefer you go to an HBCU and things like that. But I'm saying the mentality that you have to have when you're going through their system is to know that you're going through their system. And on the end game is that I'm doing this to build my people. They could teach you how to be a doctor or a surgeon or a dentist or whatever, but then you turn around and say, well, I'm gonna teach some of my people. I'm gonna go set up in the hood. I'm gonna go try to change the things, our conditions. That's what I'm saying.
Well, they had Rube Foster. I don't know if you're familiar with Rube Foster, but he was the one who started the Negro Baseball League. They were doing very, very well. They were very successful until people wanted to go to the other league, and then people started dropping off. And it was really awesome. I mean, 80,000 people back during that time, right before the Depression. But as we well know, once Jackie Robinson and other people start, migrating over there, the whole thing fell apart, even when it comes to our businesses and stuff.
And if we look at that whole thing with Negro League and anything that we had, once they opened the gate for integration, we thought we made it because we was under this mindset that, you know what, they like us now. They accepting us now. And then, but see, also, why would I go to the Negro League if I'm only going to make so much money? I don't have to work. When I could go here and make more money than I ever made. So then it's a money. They may have said, Jackie Roberts, you selling out. But see, they didn't want to have, because we could still have a Negro League if we wanted it. We still got HBC. And we even do that. I mean, not to be hypocritical. We look at games. I look at the Yankees playing all this stuff. If the Negro League was playing, would I turn off that game and watch this game? Because that's what's going to give them power. And I know we don't do that because our HBCUs we don't turn the TV on to watch it or search for it, but we rather see the Longhorns and the Sooners and the Crimson Tide. We see, because we don't even, that's the unity part, because even though the product may not be as big and they may not be getting the #1 players, we'll stop watching Jackson State and start going watching Colorado. See, I'm saying the power is in us supporting our own.
I think when you ask that question about what we do, when you look at many people that have the right mindset, they're going to continue to support that which is going to uplift. They may not see the benefit right at that moment, but if they know that this is something that's going to be something going to help us in the future, I think that means that when you look at the civil rights movement and all those places during that time, those organizations, they looked at it beyond just what was going on at that particular time. They had a vision, and a lot of us don't have a vision because we're living in the now, and European people have basically dictated to us how to think, what to think, when to do it. Like you said, many of us, if it's not white, it's not right. Or if I go to your restaurant and you have some food and it's really good, but I go to somebody else's food, your food may cost $1 more, but I'm not going to go back to you because that other person's food was $1 less, but your food was better.
And you gave the statistics about how much money the American have, white America, whatever. So they're going to be able to have better establishments. They're going to be able to have lower prices and things like that. And then they're able to employ. They are our employers, basically, so they could tighten our pockets anytime they want, and they could say, like, you know what, hey, I got to go to where it's cheaper. I got to make ends meet. So I can't afford to go to this grocery store or this chicken place, this black place, because their prices are a little higher, and that's survival. And I understand that. I'm saying, because the reason that is because somebody else is controlling. They go up on the price of meats that our black restaurants have to buy from them. Like, okay, but if you can't buy it in a certain bulk, McDonald's, all these places, they're gonna be able to buy it, and the prices are not gonna go. They're selling it to you at a higher rate. Then you got to turn around and sell it higher. And then we're gonna be looking, man, this place is high, and and then you turn around, it's like that because somebody else is employing you, and they cutting down on your wages, and you only got so much money.
And it's like that also because many want to sacrifice.
Right.
Everybody that got to where they are, from a business perspective, they didn't always get to where they are day one. It was a process. And if we know our social climate, then I shouldn't complain about that. If you're going to be helping my community, I'm going to pay that extra. Now, I'm not going to pay it till I leave this earth, but there should be a sufficient enough time where I have rapport with you to say, hey, brother, what's going on? What are you doing here? And you're going to say, well, hey, Jai, this is what I'm going to be doing to help the community, or this is what I'm going to do to bring light to some things that could help us as a people. And I think sacrifice, see, a lot of us we don't like to talk about sacrificing because, like you mentioned earlier, we see it, we want it, it's done. It's cheaper. It's and this is the mindset. But a lot of times sacrifice has to come into play, because if there's no sacrifice, which there really isn't nowadays, that's why we're in the condition that we're in, because nobody wants to sacrifice.
Right.
Not for a long deal of time.
I think giving up some of our pleasures, a lot of us, it's hard for us to do that. And I mean, I deal with that on a daily basis or weekly basis. And I may sit there and talk about somebody's football team, but I don't watch the NFL. And that's a sacrifice support of somebody or something, or going against something I believe they did. But we have to be able to do, and it is critical, it's hypocritical for me to sit there and say, well, you're not doing this, then I'm doing something that I'm not making a sacrifice either. Sacrifice comes across the board, and we're not going to all sacrifice the same way. So I'm not going to beat somebody over the head and say, well, you watch, and then, or you don't do, and see, and it's something that I may be doing that you may say, well, you know what, you don't do this. Get out. We got to get away from that. You do this, I don't do that. And we got to do this. We got to start just incorporating in our mindset the unity. Do something unified, boycott stuff. Let's get together and say, you know what, I hear people, they talking about what's happening over there in the Middle East. You know what, boycott Israeli products. Find out what they are. Some people sit here and they bitch and moan about Trump. then boycott the businesses that's putting his campaign money in. And if you're not going to do that, then I don't want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? It's places here in San Antonio is that's funding his campaign for 2024. And then you love this restaurant, but you don't want to stop eating it, even though they're contributing to something that's detrimental to you and your people.
That's true.
Then I don't want to hear it. I'm not going to sit there and bash you over the head, but I'm going to say stop complaining if you're not willing to make a sacrifice.
That's true. That's true. And that word is really heavy, because I know your parents, and some of the people of the days of old with you, they may have basically tried to encourage you the importance of sacrifice, and mine as well. But now a lot of days people are not interested in doing something they don't see the reward right then and there. It's kind of like a microwave, and they want it now. They don't want to wait. They don't want to cook it. They don't want to let it come to fruition, especially in our situation. And that's why we have these kinds of broadcasts, because we need to discuss, what do we need to do with gatekeepers? What do we do with sellouts? What do we do with Uncle Tom's?
I think that we need to boycott them. A lot of people, there's a lot of names out there that people, and I get, it irks me. I'm gonna say that when people sit there and say, "Well, Candace Owens," I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to hear what she has to say.
Right.
If I didn't put you in this category, I don't want to hear what you have to say. Why am I steady listening and getting upset every time you say something? You're controlling me in some type of way. They tell me, "Would you hear the last thing Trump said?" Why? Why am I gonna listen to what he said if I already put him in this compartment? You know, now every time, and people will sit there, they'll call me, they said, "Man, you heard what he..." No, I don't care what he did. I already know. Why am I going? The clowns did something funny. Okay. The clown did something else funny. If I'm not in the mood to laugh, why am I listening to the clown or looking at the clown?
That's a learned behavior that a lot of us, as we get older, and we often have these discussions. But I also think that when we get older, we're not going to all come together and just be perfect. But I think older people, we should begin to think a certain way, from the standpoint of, here are some issues that we're going through. Here are some things that we can do on an individual basis to help in some little way or whatever. It's not just ignoring everything and just saying, because all this stuff is going to hell in the handbasket, I'm going to participate in, like you mentioned, boycotting. We don't even use that concept anymore. We thought that's an outdated term. See, that was back in the 60s. We don't do that anymore because we're so progressive now. That's so outdated, kid. We don't even do that anymore. But you'd be surprised what that would bring about if a person was serious about making sure somebody wouldn't treat them.
And it's the same thing as pooling your resources for a black business, then boycott those other people that's treating you bad. But I'm gonna read a few of these comments coming in. I'm sorry, y'all. Sakina said, every time I come to it, it's jumping back down. Wow. It says, we have to meet people where they are, and many times the truth is difficult to accept. And that's true. I appreciate that, sister. And we got Miss Asaze said, it seems like the gatekeepers hate seeing other people succeed. And the bad part about it, they hate to see our people succeed, their own people. That, and what it is, and the reason that it's like that, that's individuality. That's that mindset. Because you want to be an individual, right? And you will succeed at the detriment of your people, and you don't mind. And that's a problem. That's why that can happen. Latricia, I appreciate you showing up. She said facts, 100, 100, 100. Wow. So when we had this big holiday coming up, big American holiday, a lot of us going to get together at these functions or whatever. And I know y'all going to be eating turkey and watching ball games. That's fine. Okay. But talk amongst your family about ways that you can be independent. And see the independence, not just financial independence. Right. Invest in the younger people in your family. Invest in them. Something that the generation higher than us in your family may not have done. But if they say, okay, this person is going to school or this person is not going to school, let's put them through AC, air conditioning, HVAC, something so that they could get their own, with the mindset that you could get your own place, or, hey, this person is struggling. Let's buy some lawnmowers or whatever. Let them do landscaping, teach, put them in a class to do. And I'm saying, do the small things, have the small conversations.
That's practical.
And they may lead to bigger conversations, the mindsets.
That's practical. That's practical. It's 2:00, 1:59.
Yeah. You got anything else, man?
Well, no,
I know you flipped your paper over. I know you said
no. You've exhausted everything that we've talked about, So it's like we have to continue to come back and give information that's going to help our people, because I think when you're going to be in front of people talking about serious subjects, you have to be willing to talk about subject matter that a lot of people aren't used to hearing or they don't want to hear. But we have to do it like when you were growing up. I'm sure your parents put things in your ear that you didn't want to hear, but they put it there.
And I wasn't ready for it. Right. I wasn't. Then it marinated, it may have to sit around for a little while. Then also, you asked a question. You said, "What do we do with the sellouts and Uncle Toms?" Now, and see if it's something that you believe is purposefully done, that they're selling out. And they're trying. I mean, a sellout is something they doing. I think that they're doing it for their money.
What you gonna do with them, Kev?
Well, sometimes I don't think they realize, but it's like, man, I'm not gonna say anything because I'm making this money.
Okay.
My thing is, if they're you have to exclude them.
Okay.
You have to if it's a Stephen A. Smith or something like that, and you watching it, then you know what? Just stop watching. Yeah. Stop watching. No matter then why are you paying attention? Just like I said, when Trump says something or this person continue, why am I continually entertaining? Boycott that. I'm saying all these little things could be boycotted. If this person is an Uncle Tom, let their ratings go down. That's what I think we should do. In every case, and exclude them. Because I'm gonna say this.
Okay.
We're talking about gatekeepers. I believe that what we're doing is also gatekeeping.
Okay.
And what we need to be doing is locking that gate and keeping that brainwash mentality out of our communities.
Wow.
We should be gatekeepers for our communities and keeping things real in our communities.
Wow.
And building things in our communities.
Wow, that's profound. You heard that from Kev of the Jah and Kev show. We're going to get out of here, but I have nothing to add to that. This brother he's really on fire today because he's been wanting to do this subject, y'all, for the longest. So now he's got a chance to tell us some truths about what we need to do when it comes to these people that are trying to stop us from moving forward. So on behalf of Brother Kev, this is Jahi for the Jah and Kev show. We'll see you guys next month on the first Saturday at 1:00. Hope everyone have a great afternoon.
Yeah, and if y'all have any topics, y'all want to bring us up, hit us on the email, Jah and Kev show, gmail.com. It's just Jah Kev show at gmail.com. Or you can hit me up on Messenger at Kevin Lewis on my page on Facebook. Y'all can hit our Cries Room up on Facebook also. And let us know what y'all want to discuss.
All right, bro. Good job.
Peace.